There are strange things out there that seem to have no explanation. Sometimes they are conjured up by the darkest corners of our subconscious, but on occasion they dwell beyond the confines of our imagination. They may come from another realm, or out of the sky, or from beyond the grave. Once they set foot into our world, the line between dreams and reality becomes unclear. It's our job to investigate these reports and compile the Virginia Paranormal Case Files.
I mean, I don't know what started it. I know it started shortly after a baby passed away. And it stopped breathing in the home, and then after it left the home, they revived it, but then it died in the hospital. So I don't know, but shortly after that, there's been scratches just showing up on people, even literally in front of their eyes. There's been knocking, there's been voices, unexplainable things flying off of dressers. I mean, it's just been a little bit of everything, and at this point we're terrified. I know at night there's been the gentleman that lives in the basement, he will you know, say crazy things at night. We've recorded it and tried to look it up. It's like Arabic, and he doesn't know Arabic. He's from Puerto Rico, so yeah. I don't, you know, we can't explain it.
Are you sure that it's Arabic? You've written down some of the words he said?
Yeah, she's recorded it and she's written it down and she's looked it up, and one of them is a location.
Oh, okay.
Like a city.
How long have you lived in the house?
I've lived here for about 5 or 6 years.
And the activity just started after?
It's shortly after the baby passed away, but I can't imagine. I mean, it was like an 8-month-old baby. Like, it wasn't walking or anything. I don't know how, I can't imagine it would be knocking or anything. But you know, and it could have came with my friend's family in the house, the spirit, or it could have been something, you know, I know that my daughter was studying witchcraft, you know, a little bit. Yeah. Because she's like, you know, defiant, very defiant 14-year-old, you know. And I don't know if that's, you know, she like has a spell in the house, or if she had it, you know, I don't know. I've never believed in this stuff, but I don't know anymore. I don't know how to explain things that have happened. I don't. So the only thing that's happened upstairs is my grandmother's lipstick flying off the dresser. There's been another occasion where they've come upstairs. We weren't even in the house, and they knocked on the door, and somebody answered. And so she was waiting for me to let her in, and then I couldn't let her in because I wasn't here. So then she knocked again, and nothing. So that's pretty much the only thing, other than us hearing things in the adjacent room to us, which is our daughter's room, but nobody was there. So we'll hear like knocking around or stuff moving, like somebody's like literally moving out of the room. It's loud. But then we go in there and there's nothing moved, nothing there.
Not everything like all happened at once. It like started to be, things started like coming ever so often, and I'm like, I've always been like, I'm one of the people that don't believe it till you see it type of person, and so I never believed in like ghosts or bad things happening. I'm the first one to try to debunk anything or give another reason or explanation for things to happen. So I guess some of the beginning was when the bruises. I started getting bruises on my body spontaneously, out of nowhere, but they're always in parts like on my arms, and they would look like finger marks, or the inside of my thighs, and then like I had pictures to show you guys what they look like. But there were bruises that obviously I don't remember ever getting them or hitting myself as hard. I'm a pretty light sleeper. I'm a mom, so I have like mom hearing. So I can hear everything going on, especially like with my boyfriend when he gets up to go to the bathroom. I know. So if something were to hit me, or if he would accidentally hit me, or if I hit myself, I would feel it, and I would obviously remember it. So these bruises just, they come out of nowhere. Let me see if I can show you. This one.
Oh wow.
That was
a dark bruise.
that was
That's a pretty
actually
dark bruise, yeah.
that was on my rear end.
Oh wow. Jeez.
Yeah. So you would think that I remembered getting hit that hard.
Right.
Yeah. Jeez.
So I started getting bruises like that, and so I went to the doctor because everybody thought I was anemic or I had a blood deficiency or a blood problem. Doctor did blood work. Everything came back fine. There's nothing wrong with me, which doesn't explain the bruising. Of course, the doctor just like, talked it off, and didn't look any further into it. So the bruising still happened now and then still. There's scratches or bruising like that, like if somebody were to grab you. It was up on my shoulders and my back.
Oh, wow.
And then my son and Leo, my boyfriend Leo, have gotten scratches. So he was sitting, I went to go sit next to him one night. It was in the evening, 7, 8 o'clock. So I sat on the bed to watch TV with him, and he started feeling something burning on his leg. And he's like, God, what is that? It burns so bad. And then I took this picture as soon as I saw his leg. He had scratches in his thigh.
Oh wow.
And you know how like when a scratch happens and you see the blood start rising to the top? That's what it started doing.
So
there was no
animal.
animal. Right, it was fresh. There was no animal on him. He was wearing like long pants.
Yeah.
So, and the scratches are here, and I took a better picture after it started becoming.
Yeah.
So you see the scratches are real thin.
They are.
Like if it wasn't like a human fingernail.
Yeah, and it's what, at least 4.
It looks like it was a double swipe maybe, or because about 2 nights ago, the same things happened to my son in the shower.
If you look at
Let
the
me
skinny
see for a
one towards
second.
the thicker first one, you would get 6.
So I don't
Yeah,
understand.
but so if you look at the angle where the scratches are laid out here, you've got 2 scratches right here. One almost over top of the other one. You've got a second one going the same angle here, and you've got a third one going the same angle here. Then if you turn this and look at the other angled scratches, you've got one that's more this way, one that's this way, right? And then there would be this one again. I'm almost wondering if it was a double swipe with 3 scratches.
That's
like
right.
a
That's
three,
what I thought.
3 clawed, whatever this was, 3 claws this
Double
way,
swipe,
and
yes.
then 3 claws with the toes more, 2 of the toes more angled this
That's
way.
exactly how I saw it. Exactly
Yeah.
like you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
that's
twice.
That's what it looks like.
Because there's no way that 6 in a row could make
Yeah,
that.
that's what I meant.
In
Yeah,
a row.
but there was
No.
a total of 6.
Especially with this V-shaped one here, that's the one that clues you in the most. Is that there's 2 different angles going on there. Almost.
Did you notice anything or hear any sounds?
Nothing. It
During
was just
that
like
period?
a normal evening downstairs, chilling, watching TV, just like what we do all the time. And just he felt, as soon as I sat next to him, he started feeling the burning. And he doesn't take pain very well, so I'm like, oh my God, what could it be now? And so I was like laughing it off. But then when I saw it, I got alarmed because no animals are there. He's a man, so his nails are cut and short. But if it were fingernails, like a person, they would be a thicker scratch.
Yeah,
not
that's
Yeah.
a sharp. That's a
not so
sharp point
and thin.
scratch.
Yeah. The first ones to hear the knocking was my kids. And of course, I'm always like trying to debunk and like try to think that they're over exaggerating or making things up. But my mom was in the room. And she heard it as well. And so the kids said one night they were all in one of the rooms, just spending time together and talking, door closed, and there was 3 knocks at the door. They said, come in, or whatever. Nothing happened, so somebody got up, opened the door. Of course, nobody was there. So, and like I said, the reason that I do believe this is my mother was in the room, and so were the older kids, so they wouldn't make this up or anything. About 3 nights ago when Josiah was here last, there was 3 knocks at our door. So we sleep in the den. We have like a bedroom in the den. And then it was 3 knocks, and they were gentle, like if it was a kid, because I thought it was my little nephew that was here. He's 4, so it was like a gentle 3 knocks. And I looked, and he's right beside me. So it couldn't have been him. Again, we said, come in, because he thought maybe it was Laura. I go to the door, I open it, nobody's there. Our den, the den where our bedroom is, has a door going to the laundry room. And the laundry room has a nightlight that comes on, and it's motion sensitive. So when somebody walks by, it clicks on. So we had just gotten home from a night job that we had, so it would have been like around 12 to 2 in the morning. And we closed the laundry room door, and the nightlight was still on because we had just left. And we sat down, and we were both looking at the door because we're talking as we sit down to take our shoes off. And it looked like a person, because it was like a shadow of something go from one end of the laundry room across the door to like going outside. And what I mean is, because the night light illuminates around the door, so you can see the light coming on the other side of the room where we're at. You see the light coming in around the door, so you could, even if a person walks by, that's what it looked like. Somebody walked by.
You actually saw a shadow.
Yeah, it walked. So it gave the impression, we didn't see the shadow, we saw the impression of it going across the door.
Right.
Yeah, so, and how could it be? Like, if it was somebody, they would be coming from the door, coming in, not from the wall going out. So, of course, Leo, not myself, goes and opens the door. Nobody's there. No signs of somebody, because we have doors that have key locks on it, a keypad. So you would hear when somebody would open it, and obviously you would hear when somebody would hit the lock, or the lock automatically locks by itself. None of that happened. And it couldn't have been somebody, because we had just been in there. And it was so late at night, the folks upstairs are asleep, my kids are asleep, it's just us. And like this, and I have like this, I'm 37 years old, and I have a fear of the laundry room. Like if I was a little girl again, and I cover up my head and at night, and I can't look that way. Once the lights are off, I don't want to look over there. Like I said, I was a skeptic. I don't believe in stuff until I hear it or see it. I don't know if it's something that was already here. It was something that's attached to somebody. Leo has, and he doesn't want to speak about stuff because it brings up old memories and stuff like that. So he does have like a past where he's from Puerto Rico, and his mom used to do voodoo, Santeria, and voodoo, and people used to pay her to do spells and stuff for people. Okay. And as a kid, he remembers like sitting on the couch, and the couch is turning and turning and turning. I don't know if he's sensitive or it's because of his mother's activity, but he's seen ghosts many times in his life, especially in Puerto Rico. Leo is like, the more here recently, he's been like weird stuff's happening at night when he sleeps. He has nightmares. He doesn't remember anything. Yeah. He doesn't remember screaming. He doesn't remember me waking him up. He doesn't remember what he says. And then it's what he says, which is weird. We speak Spanish and English here. And even his dialect is hard sometimes for other Spanish people, because if you don't know it, it's hard to understand. But I understand him. And I don't understand what he's saying. There's at times where I have one recorded. There's times where he says complete sentences. You can tell, like he's talking, like if he was talking, but I don't understand one word of what he's saying. Okay. And it's to the point where it's not like a Latin language where I can understand the syllables to write it down and try to look it up. Right. And then there's at times, like this one particular night, he repeats the same word over and over and over again. And again, I wish I could look it up. You're gonna hear him snoring, so because he's asleep. And this happens within the hour that he falls asleep. So I know people to get REM sleep. It would freak you out too, right? It scared the crap out of me the first time I heard him speak.
Someone's there? Savastia. Yeah.
Sorry, he's asleep. I told you he's asleep, so. And then he says something. Right here.
Same word.
Yeah. So there's times where he'll repeat the same word over and over and over again like this. And there's times where he'll just say phrases. Like in this recording, he says a phrase, but it's very low pitched, where he's whispering.
Something. I mean, if it's repeating the same word again and again and again, then it's something is trying to get a message across. Whether it's him trying to get a message across and using this odd language to do it in his sleep, or whatever is trying to channel through him.
He had fallen asleep downstairs, and we had like run out to the store and come back, and when he was asleep. So when we came in, Dominic, my 7-year-old, I guess tapped the bed and woke him up, or what I thought he was awake, and he rose up, eyes open, and snarled at us and growled at us like an animal. He showed all his teeth, eyes wide open, nose, crunched up from where he's snarling, like an animal. There's no other explanation or what I can tell you, comparison, like an animal. And it wasn't quickly, it was a long growl. He looked at me in my eyes and did the same thing. And then soon as, I guess he was over, he hits the pillow hard. His eyes closed, and he's out, and he's snoring again. So I wake him up. I'm shaking him to wake him up. And he didn't even know what he did. Like all this, he doesn't remember. He doesn't know he said anything. He thought I was crazy until I recorded him. He thought I was just, over exaggerating or some mumble, but no. It scared the crap out of me the first time. Like my soul was scared because of how it sounds. I don't know, it sounds demonic, to be completely honest with you, and the tone of his voice. But while he's talking, his eyes are closed. The only time they were open is when he growled at us.
So far, nothing crazy?
No, aside from around the appliances,
which
everything is fairly low, and even the appliances are fairly low.
What does she have in her hand?
She has a K2 meter, and the K2 meter, it's basically the same principle. It detects EMF levels, but that one seems to be a lot more sensitive. And since we used that one during the course of the investigation to see if anything can manipulate it, we want to see where the levels are in that one as well.
But I'm not around any, I'm not like right here. I'm right here.
No, but it's still lighting up and it's
What is your
consistent.
reading
It's
next
got to
to
be
it?
right here, 0.8.
Is that high for that in your hand?
Well, see, this is, we determined isn't
You're about the
accurate
laundry
because this
room.
is not giving out, there's no way that's giving out, between 2.5 and 10 milligauss. Because this is only 3 milligauss, and this one's a little more reliable. We can see from the comparison in these, though, that when this is only at 0.5, this one's all the way up to the yellow. It's saying it's close to 10 milligauss.
Right.
So we can kind of see the comparison and where it'll stand.
Okay, so
But there is definitely an EMF field here. It's just a very small
because
one.
it was 0.8 at first, and then
Yeah.
it went down to point. Well, now it's still 4.
Yeah, and that's not even like a full.
So let's try
Okay.
the back rooms here.
Yeah.
Nothing in here, nothing strong.
No, it's all really low throughout.
Good. That's good.
I mean, we haven't even reached 1 milligauss throughout the house, for the exception of the appliances, and even there it was still below 3, so it's still at a
Right.
very healthy level.
This thing, the yellow light has not stopped.
Yeah, it just seems to be staying right there. So we're standing down at the kind of the landing where all of the doors that lead into the bedrooms downstairs kind of lead into. You can see the stairs behind me. Immediately when you come downstairs, you start to get this sort of a little bit of a heavy feeling in the lower area that's not present up there. And it gets particularly bad when you head into one of the customers' bedrooms back in the back. And they have a laundry room that's attached back there, and it's even worse than that laundry room. And indeed, that's where they've talked about seeing a shadow figure, and where the woman is a little bit scared to even look in that area at night. So you know, it's a strange feeling down here, and there's some ideas that we have about what might be happening here, and if it's correct, then it would be something that's sort of attached to the husband or the boyfriend that's back there.
So we're going to start up here in the daughter's room. We got Tanya, and what she has is a digital voice recorder with the headphones hooked into it. So she's going to be listening in real time to any EVPs that we might capture, and of course review that afterwards to see if we picked up anything that she might have missed. We're also, during this session, we're going to use the REM pod, which we have set on the bed here. We're going to see if we can get anything to come towards it. And you're rolling with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm Jeff.
I'm Linda.
I'm Tanya.
And we don't mean to impose by any means. We're not here to be here unwanted or to cause any trouble. We'd just like to know, aside from the family members who we met out in the living room and ourselves, is there anybody else in this house with us?
Floor creaking for some reason?
REM pod just went off.
This little black and red thing on the bed here, it will light up if you come near it. Could you come near that device to let us know that you are here? Just to confirm that wasn't me setting it off. I don't think I was moving my arms out this far.
Do that funny little dance like you were just doing a minute ago.
Yeah, I'm not setting that thing off. I think I could run in place and that thing's not going to get set off.
Nope.
That was me running in place.
Gotcha.
Okay.
REM pod went off again. So could you tell us your name if you're in this room with us?
There's talking.
We can go ahead and use that device for yes and no questions. If you can light it up to green for us, that means yes. Or if you don't light it up at all, we'll take that as a no. Just to confirm that you understand and you can hear me, because we can't hear you right now. Can you go ahead and come near that device and make it light up to green? If you'd rather not talk to us, we're willing to respect that wish and leave this room at the moment. Can you light that up if you'd like us to get out of this room? But we haven't established a communication by any means.
Do you have some sort of line of communication that you want to use to see if we can establish a dialogue with it, to make sure that we're establishing a dialogue and not that it's just something random?
Exactly. That's what I was hoping to do, and I think by asking if whoever's here could understand us to light that up to green, and that didn't happen,
right,
I would assume that it's not consciously lighting it up.
But we're still not sure that this thing, I mean, this is one of those devices that's created for ghost hunters.
Right.
So we're still not sure that this is one of those devices that is not been...
Well, obviously it wants you to know it's here.
Perhaps.
Thank you.
We need to do it on command, though. We need it to do
We
it
do.
on command.
Exactly.
So that we know that it's not something random.
And I can't speak, I know, of course, like you said, a lot of these things that are made for paranormal investigation, you kind of question them. The one thing I can say for this in its defense is there is one thing, of course, we can test and see how it works. We can see that coming near it will make it light up.
Touch it again.
But another thing I can say in the defense of this is that there have been several investigations that we've gone on where it hasn't
Lit up at all.
lit up at all.
Or it would light up at certain times during the investigation and not at other times.
Right. Right. But I don't know. It seems recently it's been more frequent. I don't know. Now, given the location, there are things that could set this off. Radios being transmitted, but the radios typically, they have to be nearby.
Right.
We've established that if they're approximately 30 feet or more from this object, they're not going to light it up.
Yeah.
They're not going to set it off.
So if there is someone here with us, can you please light that up? Can you go near that black and red object and make it light up?
I'd still like to know, there's a reason this is going off.
And what is that reason?
You know, yeah. There's a reason this is going off right now. And one of the only other things I can think of other than something coming near it is a radio signal.
Right.
But
What kind of radio signal, though?
a handheld radio.
Yeah, but who would have that?
No one in the house.
Right.
I would wonder if CB radios out on the interstate could set it off.
I would doubt that. I would think they would have to be in much closer proximity than what the trucks on the interstate would be.
We can test it.
We could, because we have that CB out
We do.
there.
We do. Let's get the radios.
Right.
Well, I guess we can't do that. Actually, we can. What we'll do is we'll have Tanya stand in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give her a handheld radio. I'll go out and I'll key the CB radio. You stay here with the REM pod.
Okay.
And I'll tell her when I've set off that CB radio and see if it has any effect on this device.
Okay.
Want to do it? All right.
Copy.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nope.
Nothing went off.
So we weren't really sure what to expect with that, but sure enough, when Jeff went out and messed with the CB radio, was keying the mic, and she had the handheld out in the living room, neither of those things appeared to set off the REM pod. So that sort of rules out, it would have to be somebody in the immediate area with the handheld radio, very close to the REM pod in order to set it off. So there's obviously not anybody with CB that's able to make this thing go off.
Has it lit up since we left?
No.
We're not here to cause you any problems. We're not here to stir anything up. We just want to know that the family here, they've had some things happen that they can't really explain. They feel that someone has touched some of them, and we want to know who that is. Do you know who is in this house with this?
You know, just a random thought. Do you think it's possible that someone's energy can set that off?
Someone's energy?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to be projecting some pretty strong energy.
I mean, if there's people supposedly that are able to project enough energy that they can create a poltergeist,
Mm-hmm.
which is like an actual, like an entity outside of their own psyche that goes around and wreaks havoc, then perhaps there's people that are able to set this thing off with their energy, with their minds.
I guess it's possible.
And the reason I say that is because we were out in the woods and we were not, there was nothing around us but woods. and this thing was going off.
But it wouldn't be you that's setting it off then. It would have to be one of us. Because you were in here with it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it doesn't, I'm not saying it's me by any means. I'm just saying, do you think somebody could set it off? And if that's the case, because I mean, it's obviously not electronics that would be normally found in a home. It has to be either something that we have, that we carry with us electronically that would set it off, or it would have to be somebody's energy that's setting it off.
The thing with that is if we look electronically, the only thing that's in here, and I brought this in here, the Mel meter, but once again, it was going off before when the Mel meter wasn't in here, so that's not the factor.
Right.
The only thing that's been in here every time it's gone off was her recorder.
That's true.
Because the camera was in here the whole time, and
right.
So that wasn't setting it off.
Yeah.
But if it was one of these devices that was setting it off, I think it would be constant.
You would think so.
It wouldn't just be a spike here and there, because this isn't sending off any kind of a signal that's going to interfere with that. And I think we could probably put this stuff like until we break that field. Until we break that field and actually come up to that antenna.
Yeah.
It's not going to get set off.
Right. Just out of curiosity, seeing how close we can get with yeah, see, it's not the video camera.
No.
It's Tanya.
It's not me.
Tanya's setting that thing up.
It's Tanya.
But then again, the time we've been standing here since the last time it went off was about as long as it took me to go out and key the CB radio.
Right.
So there's long segments where it doesn't go off, and then all of a sudden it goes off.
Well, and I find it particularly interesting that before it was set off even the first time, right before that we heard a strange floor creak.
Yeah.
Like somebody walked into the room when none of us were walking. None of us were moving.
And even where we are standing, where we move, we don't hear that creak. So,
is there someone here with us? If there is, make that thing light up.
Walking.
I mean, you're obviously in here setting it off. You don't want to do it on command? Is that it?
Are you okay with this symbol?
That could have been me. Are you related to someone who lives in this house? Were you a relative, like a grandmother, a mother or father? If you were, can you light that up? I think some of the people in this house would like to know that there's a relative or an ancestor trying to look out after them.
So what we're going to do is set up in the kitchen here, in the kitchen area. We're going to set up the REM pod. We have this thermal pad here which will allow something to leave an imprint. And we're also going to run the spirit box. We figure this will kind of cover the upstairs. If there was something in that back bedroom that was manipulating this device, perhaps it can still communicate with us out here. Also, this is where Tanya was getting some signals on the K2 meter, which of course were probably natural, but still we want to give it a try just to see if we can pick anything up out here. Alright, I'm Jeff.
I'm Tanya.
And here with the headphones, that's Linda. If there's anybody else here with us, we have a couple of ways that you may be able to communicate. For one, you could try talking to us through this box. Can you try telling us your name and see if Linda can hear it? We also have this yellowish pad. And if if you can touch that, that may also let us know that you're here. It won't hurt you by any means. It'll just let you leave a fingerprint.
Are there more than one of you? Could you light that up if there's more than one of you?
If you're okay with us being here right now, can you tell us? Can you try telling Linda that you're okay with us being here?
So really all I heard coming through were bits and pieces of radio stations. You could tell it was songs that were coming through. There was no definitive speech or anything that was said that I could pull out of there. So I'm kind of surprised that we weren't picking up more radio stations than we actually did. But, you know, who knows? It could just be the atmosphere or something about the environment that deadens the frequencies. But, yeah, so far nothing.
Sounded like you were getting a lot of frequency hits, though.
Yeah.
More than usual when we've used that.
It was, yeah, it was, this one's different than the PSB-7.
Yeah.
You know, it's very different.
Do you think this one's more sensitive?
I don't know. You hear less of the radio stations that come through,
Right.
and it seems more like dead sound through the PSB-11.
Well, it's noise canceling.
Right, and that might be exactly what it is. It's drowning out some of those radios, some of those things that would normally come through the PSB-7. The reason I like this one is because it's so much louder. When I put this going with those headphones on, I don't even hear the what I call the Peanuts teacher. That that's normally what I hear when you guys are asking questions and I have
And
the
you don't hear
headphones
it?
on. No, with this PSB-11, I don't hear that at all. All I hear is in my head. So
Okay.
I like it for that reason, but I did notice the temperature sensor started climbing a little bit.
That does that. I haven't figured out why.
The temperature actually went up. I was looking at the
Did it?
mel meter here,
Yeah.
and it did go up, but it was only a slight variation. It was only 2 degrees that it went up.
Usually
Yeah.
1
Yeah.
degree will set it off.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why I kept resetting it, because I was thinking maybe it's just kind of getting acclimated to the temperature in the environment anyways.
But this not going off here, when I had the yellow readings prior, when nothing else was around, it was odd, because if anything was setting that off, it would seem like it would have set this off
Yeah, and the fact that that was going off in the bedroom and not here,
here.
Right.
you know, we mentioned that that perhaps is an indicator that something was setting that off in the bedroom, just
Yeah.
we don't know what.
Yeah, exactly. I still kind of wonder about, you know, people's energy, their ability to set something
But nobody
off
knew
like
we
that.
were in there doing that. And
Yeah.
my energy wasn't focused on, you know, like concentrating on that object. I was
Right.
concentrating on the recorder
Yeah.
and what I was hearing in the headphones. So, I don't believe it was any of our energy.
I was out.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What about the daughter's energy?
she's not there.
She's been gone
Right.
for like 6 months.
Oh, you're talking
But
like living
she-
ghost type energy.
Right, because
Yeah.
she has a very strong desire to be here
I mean, my daughter like
right now.
desperately wants to be.
Yeah, that could be.
She's doing everything she can right now to be back in her house, back in her own room. So I almost wonder if it's kind of one of those sort of things. We've heard cases where,
Because since she's come to visit, she did sleep in her room and actually slept in her bed.
Oh, wow.
so
And you said before she was afraid to go in there.
Screaming, crying, screaming, like curdling screams.
yeah,
It
to
was
not have to sleep.
to
in
not sleep in there. And she slept literally. She had to put paper under her door
so
to
that she
block
couldn't
it.
see or hear. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she would sleep right inside the door.
So I think what we should do is we're going to go back and try in your room now. And we won't have the speaker hooked up because we don't have 2 splitters. But I say let's run both of these spirit boxes, the PSB-7 and the PSB-11 side by side. Have one of you listen to the headphones through the 11 and one of you listen to headphones through the 7. I'll ask the questions and both of you just say any responses that you hear come through.
Okay.
Be interesting to compare.
Yeah, it would.
And how amazing would it be like if you both heard the same
Oh,
thing at the same
God.
time?
Oh, I know, that would
You
be
know.
weird.
So let's
Yeah.
try it. Okay, I'm Jeff. That's Tanya with the headphones on over there, and then over here we have Linda, some headphones on, and we're hoping that you can maybe talk to us through one of these devices. If possible, could you tell us your name?
The same.
We'd like to know who you are, we also have these devices on the bed here, and if you come near this red light, it should let us know that you're here. Can you come near that red light for us? It's nothing that'll hurt you. I'll give you an example of what it does. It'll just light up like that. Can you come near that for us? Can you tell me what year it is? What happened to you? Were you hurt? If so, we'd like to know how.
Did someone summon you here?
So we tried the spirit box with me listening to the headphones through the PSB-7 and Tanya listening to the PSB-11 through her headphones. She didn't actually hear anything. And I was hearing what sounded like a bunch of radio stations.
Oh yeah,
So,
I heard that, but that was it.
Yeah. So I don't think that we were getting any real communication, and we certainly didn't get anything through the REM pod either. So I think it's pretty quiet back there. The energy feels pretty good back there anyways. So what I'm really kind of eager to get to is the downstairs area where all of the activity occurs. And perhaps we can try one of the spirit boxes with the splitter and with the speaker head and the headphones hooked up both to it and see what we can get.
One more thing, kind of in defense of the REM pod. It didn't go off the whole time we're in that bedroom. So either out of the 3 locations we've done in this house so far, that one location where it went off, there's some kind of a natural field there that keeps setting it off, or there's something in that room. And it's interesting because, like I said, this girl was so afraid to sleep in that room, she would scream. So, I don't know. I'm still wondering about the REM pod, you know, because if it'd be one thing if it was going off at every single location, but it hasn't been.
Right.
So, what is setting it off in that room? Alright, I'm Jeff.
I'm Linda.
I'm Tanya.
And we'd like to know if there's anybody else here with us. If there is, could you please tell us your name? Why are you here?
I'll have to watch it because I can't hear it.
Can you come near that red light for us? If you can, that'll light up, and we can use that as a way to communicate. If you're able to activate that light, can you do it now, please?
What? What did we say instead? You could, yeah, you could definitely try that. There you go.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
¿Se puede decir el nombre de quién está haciéndole daño a la gente de aquí?
Let's go into green. Would you ask?
I asked if they could go closer to the red light so we can make sure that you're here. Can you ask if they're available?
Thank you.
¿Tú eres un bebé?
So I think what we're going to do is go downstairs and do the Gansfeld experiment. And what that is, if you don't know, is somebody is either blindfolded. A lot of times they'll use a ping pong ball and cut it in half and tape the ping pong ball halves over the person's eyes, basically just to take away their vision. And then they use headphones and they pump white noise into the person's ears. So that kind of takes away your auditory sense as well, and just uses the white noise. This is something that they experimented with back in the 60s to enhance people's natural psychic ability, and we've had some interesting results with it in the past. So I think we're going to go downstairs and we're going to try it and see if we can get some sort of responses or some sort of information through that that we haven't gotten already.
What we're going to do with the REM pod this time is we're going to set it down after Linda puts the blindfold on.
Okay.
That way she doesn't know where it is and she's not biased at all, because in the past she's known where the REM pod was.
Mm-hmm.
So she may have kind of had the feeling that something was going over near it because she knew where it was.
Right.
So this
Okay.
time,
This time we will
take that factor out. Okay. I'd like you to tell Linda your name. Are you in this room with us? If so, where are you standing? Can you tell me why you are here? So now what we're looking for is for some correlation with that. If Linda was able to point to the direction, you know, where she believed it was standing, and it was over here where this light was going off, that would be interesting.
Okay.
Because she hasn't seen the light go off or heard it.
Right.
They're kids on a playground. It's like one small corner of a city block. One of the boys, about 6 years old, is pushed off of a piece of equipment. He falls down and the other kids, 2 or 3 boys, jump on top of him and start beating him up.
Is that anything significant?
No, how about you? Is that a memory for you? Leo, your past with your brother. Was there a playground near where you used to live?
The one boy that's getting beat up is wearing a blue jacket.
That's not really what I was expecting. Can you give us some kind of an idea as to who is here? Who is it that leaves the scratches?
I see something like black smoke filling this room.
What's the source of the smoke?
Something walking around behind me.
No, you're good.
Over this shoulder.
Can you come and stand right here?
Moved back over here.
If you come and stand where I'm asking you to, that'll let us know that Linda really is seeing you move around. Can you tell us where you
I feel
came?
like I'm outside. It's cold. It's a low rumble. Might be a train.
There's a train station or like a train that goes close by here.
Any significance?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just heard it for the first time. I've lived here for 6 years and never heard it until the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just heard something that sounded like a woman screaming. It's a strange feeling, like I'm on a train. Sort of rushing feeling.
Kind of describe what you were experiencing there.
Well, the whole time there was kind of this strange sensation, like floating, but at the same time, at certain times, it was almost like a rushing feeling. Like the only way I can describe it is kind of that feeling you get when you're on a plane or on a train and you can feel that force because you're moving so fast. But then there were a few times when there were some things that it's like that strange kind of cold gust of air. I don't know if somebody came through the door at that time.
By.
Is that what it was?
I walked
Okay.
by.
Because it was
I
like
kept
this
setting
really
the thing
cold.
off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was like this cold gust of air. But then there was definitely something that was hanging around, mostly behind me.
And when you described it, could you see its face?
Yeah.
Was it one time human? Or do you think it was something demonic?
It didn't really look human. Like in a lot of ways it did, because it was tall. Like if it was a human, it would have been a tall human. But the skin on it was really white. Like really white. Kind of whitish gray.
And it kept going over here?
Yeah, like over...
Towards Leo.
Yeah. Yeah. And and then it like went back behind me at one point, and then went up, like straight up through the ceiling. And I think that's when I started like feeling like I was hearing a war going on or something. Like I could hear shooting, like the sounds, almost like the sounds of a war. That's all I can say is like shooting.
There was a war in Stafford like a long time ago.
Yeah, I guess there was probably, what, Civil War battle around here?
Mm-hmm. But you said it was more like semi-automatic?
Yeah, it was. It was actually more like a modern warfare.
Gun.
Because it was like an automatic, like...
Could have been like a Gatling gun.
I guess it could have been, yeah. But it was that rapid fire of a gun. But then it seemed like that thing came back behind me again. And then kind of came over here and was like talking in my ear.
What about the kids on the playground?
Threatening people. I don't know what
was there emphasis for the boy in the jacket, right? The one that got beat up? That
yeah.
Kind of like the emphasis of the...
Yeah, they were maybe 6, maybe 7 years old. And it was like...
City complex?
Yeah, it was a city complex, and it was just one small section of the complex that had a little playground on it. And I could see some swings, like toward the center of it. But then off to this right-hand side, a little closer, there was some sort of a... I don't know whether it was like one of those old-style jungle gym kind of things that has the bars that form a dome. And there was like maybe 3 or 4 boys playing on it, and one of them had a blue jacket. And he got pushed off of the thing and fell to the ground, and that's the boy that had the blue jacket on. And the other kids, the other boys kind of jumped down and started trying to beat him up. And he got up and he ran across the playground and disappeared kind of around the corner down the block. And I got the feeling like maybe he was going home. He was running home. But I'm not sure what that was about. That was just kind of a strange flash. What?
There's an elementary school at the end of the street here,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a middle school behind our house.
Oh, okay. It could have been, but it was more... It felt more city.
Oh.
You know, more like big city. Kind of... Because it was like... I could see taller buildings, you know... Mostly grayish buildings, you know. But I don't know. It was strange. There was definitely some odd things.
So during Linda's analysis or her whatever she did, she mentioned a boy in a blue jacket being picked on a playground. So it sounds pretty close to a deceased brother of my boyfriend Leo's. The day he was killed, he was wearing a blue jacket and jeans, and the description of him is pretty much right on to what he looked like. The olive skin and the dark hair, and
brown.
And the way he was killed was similar to the way he was jumped in the park. He was tackled and beat first, and then unloaded with the guns and shot to death afterwards.
So definitely some interesting things with the Gainesfield experiment, or the sensory deprivation experiment. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. I wasn't sure where Linda was going with it at first. Typically, I like to try to ask some questions to see if I can get the spirit that she's seeing to move to a certain part of the room, so that way I kind of get that confirmation it moves where I tell it to, or where I ask it to, and she points that direction saying it's moved, so it's kind of like, alright, she is seeing it. But she starts talking about the kids on the playground, and you know, I wasn't sure where she was going with that, but it was interesting when we were done and they talked about that being his brother, or resembling his brother, the description that she gave. And off camera she gave a description of the hair and the skin color and everything else. And it really sounded like it hit home there. Now, with the REM pod, I can't say for sure that what was coming through on that was anything of a paranormal nature, We didn't get any other evidence other than one word that came through the spirit box that was a name of somebody from his past that could have been tied in with the brother as well. But other than that, the REM pod at the various places, that was all we got. And to say that's definite evidence of something paranormal, in my opinion, that would be inaccurate, because there are natural factors that could set that thing off, plus the fact that we've discussed. Could it be something that, because it's made for paranormal investigation, goes off at random? In the defense of the REM pod, it went off for a couple times down there, and then the rest of the time it didn't go off at all. So, interesting, but not definitely something paranormal. And even if it is paranormal, it's not something that gave us enough of a response to really determine what was setting off that REM pod.
So I have to say it was a pretty interesting investigation. There wasn't a lot of activity, and I wasn't really surprised by that. I kind of expected that there wouldn't be with the reports that they were giving. You do this enough times and you realize when you're going to walk into a lot of activity and when you're not. This was one of those cases that there definitely wasn't. But I really do believe that these people probably need to kind of do some soul searching and go through a deliverance and start to kind of look into their past a little bit and forgive some people and ask forgiveness for things. Because some of the things that this man has described is kind of the sort of thing that we only see in movies. This guy lived a life like that. So whenever you have a life like that, you know, there's always things that are left over from your past, and it gives, you know, some really negative things a right to sort of come into your life and mess with you. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. So we're going to send them some information. We may be back at a later date if anything else kicks up, but hopefully not. Hopefully this will do the trick and they'll have a little bit of peace.
I'm in total agreement with Linda. Everything Linda said, I believe.
This investigation was one of those investigations that was kind of cut and dry.
Right.
A lot of them you walk away with some audio evidence as to what's going on there. We didn't pick up any EVPs.
No.
The spirit box responses, well, you heard what we got. It was very limited.
It was.
It wasn't like anything definite that came through. But in a case like this, it doesn't mean that the place isn't haunted.
No,
it doesn't mean that these clients are not experiencing this activity.
Right.
There's several times where anyone who has been doing this for a number of years will walk into a location and you'll walk away with zero evidence.
Right.
Yet you know the residents are credible.
Right. That's exactly right.
And you know, you can tell from
happening.
talking to them, after talking to people for so many times, you know that they're really experiencing this stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, I'm going to have Linda elaborate on this, but this sensory deprivation experiment that we did at this location in Stafford was definitely interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if the video gave it the full effect, but she started talking about this little boy on a playground. She described the jacket. She described his haircut.
Yes.
She described what happened to this little boy.
Right.
And the guy that was sitting right there said, "That is my brother.
Yeah.
You just described my brother.
Yeah.
You described the jacket he was wearing when he died. You described his haircut. You described what he looked like."
Yeah.
And there's no reason that Linda would have been getting this image.
No.
Because we weren't called there to investigate the spirit of a little boy.
Right. Not by any means, no.
It was just kind of coming to you. So how would you describe the feelings when this first came to you?
Oh, I don't know. It was really kind of... it kind of threw me for a loop, I have to say, because I had done the Gansfeld experiment once or twice before in the past, before that. And the experiences that I had were not ones that were too off the wall, but this one was really off the wall. I mean, you know, to see this child, well, he was probably not a child, I'd say 12 years old, 10 or 12 years old, I think he was, on a playground, and to see this series of events. And I could see perfectly, I could see the buildings around the playground. I could see the setup of the playground. I could see what this kid was wearing. It was just really kind of a surreal experience. I'm not by any means a psychic. I don't claim to be a psychic. I don't claim to be even necessarily as sensitive. I have good instincts, or good intuition is what I would say. And I use that often in the investigations. But when it comes to this was just one of those things. And I think I even said at the beginning of this, I said, okay, now this is weird. Like, this is really weird. But I see this kid on a playground. And to be able to describe all of these things, it didn't mean anything to me at the time that I was experiencing it. But it certainly meant a lot to this guy.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have seen his face.
I could see his face.
You
And I
know?
could tell from the moment you mentioned this that he was reacting.
Right.
It really hit home with him.
Yeah.
And you came up with a name, and when Linda came up with this name,
Yes.
that really hit home, because this was
Yeah.
not a common name.
Right.
And it was the name of a guy who was tied in with these events.
Right.
So it was quite amazing to just kind of come up with this.
I
And
know.
and we're not saying that this takes psychic ability.
Right.
But we are saying that something about this sensory deprivation experiment allows
Yes.
an entity or something to
Yes.
connect with you and give you these messages.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now, I have read a lot of the information that is available from scientific sources about the Gainesville experiment. I have read about the experiments that were carried out in the 60s and then the 70s and then 80s related to this. And all of them say that there really wasn't a whole lot of evidence that this produced anything, you know, of psychic ability. But the one thing that was spoken about it was that the person who is sending the information or who is asking the questions and the person who are receiving the questions or receiving these psychic visions are often more successful if they're related in some way, if they have a relationship in some way.
To the person that's asking the questions.
Yes, like you were the
Right.
you were the primary one asking the questions during this, I think, and I was the one that was, you know, answering the questions and had the headphones on. You and I have that relationship. We have that repertoire. Plus, they said that people, the receiver, which would have been me with the headphones on and the blindfold, it's often successful if the person is more of a creative type, which I am. I'm an artist. So that, you know, those kind of factors are in play here.
Right.
And it makes you wonder if there's actually something psychic or, like you said, if it is something like a spirit trying to communicate or trying to get some sort of message across.
Yes. Now, this case overall, we're not quick to jump to the conclusion that something is demonic.
Right.
We're really not. But this had a lot of the
Symptoms.
a lot of the symptoms of
Yes.
demonic oppression, would you
Yes,
say?
Absolutely. This guy was under some severe demonic oppression, I would say. And from my perspective, he'd been under this demonic oppression for many, many years. You know, to the point of being able to see dark figures. At one point, he said he was walking home, like, in an alleyway, and he saw this big black, what looked like a moth creature flying at him. These are the type of things that they describe in demonic oppression. And even going so far as to say that there's sort of an infestation into somebody's house. There's different levels of demonic, what they call demonic possession. And he was, you know, up into the second or third level here. I mean, this guy really had some things going on, and it was a little bit unsettling. I mean, he had scratches. He had scratches that would form right there on his leg in front of him as he was sitting there watching TV at night. And you could tell, you could see the fear etched in these
Right.
people's faces. You could tell that there was some credibility there. They weren't just sitting there trying to say these things for the sake of getting attention.
Right, absolutely.
So it was a little bit unsettling.
And I do believe that demons, of course, are real.
Yes.
And that's one thing for sure.
Right.
It's not like you see on TV. It's not like they come out and cause somebody's head to spin around and they crawl across the ceiling
Yeah.
and spit pea soup. Because really, if they did that, they would be known. We'd have evidence, here are demons.
Right.
But their best defense is to go beneath the radar.
Right. To stay
Because
quiet.
if people don't believe in demons, they have more reign. They have
Right.
more freedom to do what they want, to get
That's
away with
exactly
what they
right.
want. And people do not believe in them. Now, I'm going to say it. We are Christian-based.
Yes, we
So
are.
we do believe what the Bible says.
Right.
We do believe that there are demons out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask, how do you help these families? This is stuff that you don't see in the video. Because the investigation is just our initial approach, our initial
Right.
When we go into the house and we see what we can find, see what evidence we can gather,
Yes.
we stick with these people for some time after that.
Yeah.
And there's been places that we've gone back and done investigation after investigation where we've counseled the people for
That's
years
right.
and years, because this is not, there's no overnight answer to these
Right.
problems.
Yeah.
But Linda did recommend to this gentleman a self-deliverance,
Yes.
which is a very powerful thing.
It is. It is. It's one of those things that I kind of discovered through personal experience, through some very difficult times I had in my life prior to meeting Jeff and prior to getting into the group. And it was sort of one of those things that I discovered by accident, I have to say. I had been in a situation where I was desperate. I felt like it was at the bottom of the pit. I was praying to God every single night, trying to get out of this rut that I felt like I was in. And this is what he told me to do. He told me to pick this thing up and to start reading. I read these prayers 3 times out loud, almost yelling them out. And that night I had this really crazy, crazy dream. And the next morning when I woke up, I was a completely different person. I mean, I can't explain how clear my mind felt and how different I felt. I could think more clearly. I could see things more clearly. I no longer had any depression or anxiety. I'd been suffering anxiety attacks. All of that was gone. It was completely gone. And through a little bit of research, I discovered what I actually did, and it was this self-deliverance. And kind of a roundabout way of doing it, but we have recommended this to quite a few of our clients in the past.
It has had a very high success rate.
It has.
It really has.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it, whether your religion is something different.
Yes.
This is one thing that for some reason
Right. It's for
has
some reason
worked
it works.
for several people.
Yeah.
And we're in the process of counseling this client right now
Right.
with this method.
Yeah, and I even wrote up an article. I wrote up some information on a questionnaire. I wrote some information. I do have a degree in writing, so it's all legible and everything. If anybody is interested in this, by all means contact us, and we will email it to you. It's one of those things that kind of walks you through the process, tells you all about it, what it's, you know. But it's kind of a spiritual cleansing of sorts, really. It's just kind of a spiritual cleansing that's supposed to get rid of all this negative energy that builds up in people's lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So definitely try that. It doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And it can definitely help even the smallest
Right.
situations.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us for this edition of Virginia Paranormal Case Files. There's much more to see in the dark.
Yes.